friends of the Singularity back. Today we want to talk about what the Singularity is again, and especially where the word is derived from. So we go back to Kurzweil's book, The Singularity is Near, and this chapter, right after we have discussed the 6 epochs, discusses indeed now what is the Singularity, the final epoch of our development. And he starts with some interesting quotes. You know, things are going to be really different. No, I mean really different. I don't know who's Mark Miller. I tried to look him up, but I couldn't find him. Kind of a very normal name. But it seems the thing that is pointed out here is that we are approaching an event that cannot really be prepared by the concepts that we currently have. We cannot really say how it will be like and what it will be. It is different, but different to a degree that even the criteria for measuring this difference won't be enough. Next quote. So what are the consequences of this event? Approaching the singularity. When greater than human intelligence drives progress, that progress will be much more rapid. In fact, there seems no reason why progress itself would not involve the creation of still more intelligent entities. So the question is really how far can we extrapolate the trends of the intelligence explosion? Is there maybe a natural limit to the universe as how it is constructed? Maybe not. So this is the thought experiment of extending intelligence to a level that was never seen before. The only problem I have with that, see, our rationality helps us to predict our surrounding reality that we experience. Now, what if reality does not ultimately follow a logical plan that any intelligence could figure out? Then at some point we would be limited to what I would call the aesthetical experience of our life surrounding. Let's go on. The best analogy that I see with the evolutionary past is that animals can adapt to problems and make inventions, but often no faster than natural selection can do its work. The world acts as its own simulator in case of natural selection. So yeah, this thought is quite clear. Animals make inventions, but not in their mind, but in their genome, in the way they mutate, naturally select, and then get adequate to a certain surrounding. So in that case, the world is actually driving this kind of intelligence, the biological organism in interaction with the world. Okay, so we humans have the ability to internalize the world and conduct what-ifs in our head. We can solve many problems thousands of times faster than natural selection. So the moment we make the mind external world, whatever that is, I mean, can we really know it? Because the only thing that is accessible to our discourses is what we experience, and therefore is already mind internal. But yeah, we have an internalized world that we can somehow press into the framework of possibilities. We can think about what ifs. It's probably the most powerful human capability. And the question is whether computers can do that too. We could make the argument that they obviously do it with regard to chess and Go, and then pick the best of all possible worlds that are known to them at a certain point. Now, by creating the means to execute those simulations at much higher speeds, we are entering a regime as radically different from our human past as we humans are from the lower animals. From the human point of view, This change will be a throwing away of all the previous rules, perhaps in the blink of an eye, an exponential runaway beyond any hope of control. So what's happening here is that the last invention that humans will make is so gigantic that we won't be able to follow anymore. It is so different that our mind cannot understand it anymore. And I think it's reasonable to think in that way. And in a sense, it's a godlike reality. So who's Werner Winch? Werner Winch. Interesting how he actually translated his name, because I'm not entirely sure, but I assume that he is German, because his second name is Steffen, and written in a very German way. So, and therefore I think his name is actually Werner, but he translated it into English to Werner. Well, this is a bit like going off the topic. But he's an American science fiction author, and I'm really interested. Maybe I should look into him. Interestingly enough, he is not just a science fiction author, but he also taught mathematics and computer science at San Diego State University. And I think this usually enhances the quality of a science fiction text that you can read. It's similar to Stanislaw Lem, an underestimated science fiction author that we can discuss at a certain point, which I'm really, really a fan of, whom I'm really, really a fan of. So yeah, this is another recommendation. I haven't checked out Werner Winch. If you have read anything of Werner Winch, then maybe you let me know in the comments how science fiction literature is. Is it worthwhile reading it? Given that we don't have much time, that's the big question. Okay, but let's go on. It seems Irving John Good, and I'm not sure, man. Ray Kurzweil has read a lot. I have to grant that. He says, let an ultra-intelligent machine be defined as a machine that can far surpass all the intellectual activities of any man, however clever. Since the design of machines is one of these intellectual activities, an ultra-intelligent machine could design even better machines. There would then unquestionably be an intelligence explosion. Very interesting word in terms of what kind of dynamite we are creating right now. And I always wonder, what if such an intelligence explosion happens and machines take away one of our genuine capabilities that we usually define as being smarter than animals, therefore we can eat them, right? But if that is taken away, how will we understand our humanity? That's a big question to me. So Irving John Good, that's another name that Ray Kurzweil uses here. And let's see whether we can find him. He's also an interesting person, was a British mathematician who worked as a cryptologist together with Alan Turing. Very, very, very famous person. If you haven't watched the movie, watch it, it's worth it. About Alan Turing. And they worked together in Bletchley Park, where they actually decoded the German Enigma, and so helped, as far as I understood, winning the war. Yay! Nevertheless, let's get back to the question of the singularity, because all of these questions of the singularity won't matter anymore once we have, the questions of war won't matter anymore once we have reached the singularity, hopefully. So, and what Kurzweil now does is he tries to explain what singularity actually means. So the word was adopted by mathematicians to denote a value that transcends any finite limitation, such as the explosion of magnitude that results when dividing a constant by a number that gets closer and closer to zero. Consider, for example, the function y equals 1 divided by x. As the value of x approaches the zero, the value of the function explodes to larger and larger levels. Yeah, and it's interesting. But as I assume it, living here, this looks amazing, right? But living here, we're just waiting for the next intelligence explosion. So I think that the concrete experience of phenomenologically situated human beings may not change. At least I cannot imagine how it would change right now. So such a mathematical function never actually achieves an infinite value, since dividing by zero is mathematically undefined, which means impossible to calculate. But the value of y exceeds any possible finite limit. It approaches infinity as the divisor x approaches zero. So, and then we also encounter the word of the singularity in astrophysics, and that is when a massive star undergoes a supernova explosion, its remnant eventually collapses to the point of zero volume and infinite density, and a singularity is created at its center. Because light was thought to be unable to escape the star after it reached this infinite density, it was called a black hole. It constitutes a rupture in the fabric of space and time. And as I've said before, black hole cannot be observed directly because light cannot escape it, but we can observe the surrounding. And that's similar to the singularity. Its impact is so big, but it seems our history is drawn by a kind of teleological gravitational force of this event. It's a kind of historical materialism, how Marx would, for example, call it, which means that history has a goal where it materializes itself. Maybe that's the wrong word, but there is not an external goal in terms of God, but there's a goal written into the material of the universe, which the universe then drives itself forward to. And that's Kurzweil's idea, right? One theory speculates that the universe itself began with such a singularity. Interestingly, however, the event horizon of a black hole is of J finite size, and gravitational force is only theoretically infinite at the zero size center of the black hole. At any location that could actually be measured, the forces are finite, although extremely large. The first reference to the singularity as an event capable of returning the fabric of human history is John von Neumann's statement quoted above. In the 1960s, Irving John Good wrote of an intelligence explosion resulting from intelligence machines designed their next generations without human intervention. That's a big thing. When machines can actually improve themselves, the speed of invention will be incredibly fast. But I wonder, what does that mean? Do machines are going to conduct experiments like physicists in a lab? Are experiments necessary, or is pure intelligence enough to pre-calculate the universe? Does it still rely on interaction with other individuals? Big question. How can the singularity be realized? It's still unclear to me. Werner Winch, a mathematician and computer scientist at San Diego State University, wrote about a rapidly approaching technological singularity in an article for Omni magazine in 1983 and a science fiction novel Marooned in Real Time in 1986. My 1989 book, The Age of Intelligent Machines, presented a future headed inevitably toward machines greatly exceeding human intelligence in the first half of the 20th century. Hans Moravec's 1988 book, Mind Children, came to a similar conclusion, and so on and so forth. So singularity as an impeding event resulting primarily from the event of entities with greater human intelligence. So that is what we are creating, and we talk about that a little bit more the next time. Decided to make these videos just 10 minutes long. So thank you very much for watching, and stay on for the next time. Today you have learned some names of other authors who have invented the term of the singularity. We have looked into how singularity looks similar to the black hole again. And yeah, if you like that, then subscribe. Otherwise, live long and prosper.